What are your Eid traditions? I'll share mine with you if you share yours with me in the comments below. Welcome to episode 33 of Happily Entangled AF.
When I think about Eid traditions, there is one thing that remains constant, and that is always the masjid. They always revolve around the masjid, and that is because regardless of what you do, regardless of country or culture, the celebrations for Eid always begin at the masjid, because the first thing you do when you wake up on Eid morning, you're probably going to head across to the masjid for Fajr, but there is the Eid prayer, the Eid Salah, that usually happens in Trinidad and Tobago at around 7:30, depending on where you're going, and sometimes as late as 8 o'clock. Each masjid will have a different time, but suffice it to say that Eid celebrations always begin with the masjid. So we go to the masjid, we offer the Eid prayer, and thereafter we listen to the Imam's message for that year. And one of the major traditions that I look forward to on Eid day is actually the warm embraces afterwards. The Eid tradition is one where after all of the Eid prayers and the sermons, etc., we greet each other before we leave the masjid, and we greet each other in the form of hugs, but you're hugging each person like 3 times. So you hug one side here, 2 sides there, 3 sides there, and if there are 40 brothers in the masjid, these 40 brothers are going to exchange hugs with each other, whether we know you personally or not. That's just the way that it is. And sometimes you have to run away early because maybe you don't have time to hug 40 people. It's not that you don't want to hug 40 people, but there's someone waiting for you downstairs in our masjid, and that's the other thing. So after the warm embraces, many masjids would kick off the eats and drinks celebration part of Eid by offering you sawain, or making provisions for light snacks or boxes, or even provide you with gifts. I know that one major thing that many masjids do over the years is they've always tried to ensure, at the very least, that they're able to provide like a kid's bag or a kid's box or a kid's gift bag or something of the sort to give kids gifts on Eid day as well. So it really is a very, very joyous time, and that joy and that celebration begins at the masjid.
I remember as a child, my grandmother was very particular about us wearing white clothing to go for the Eid prayer or the Eid Salah. And she would ensure that my mother made us white shalwars or white gararas, and because my grandmother, when she's going to mosque, it's only white, and you have to be early. So when she was alive, we were never late for the mosque on Eid morning. We were always on time. I think after she passed though, and we got older, then we started wearing colored stuff to go to mosque, and we'd probably get there a little bit later. And I remember my father would give us money, because there would be like 2 collections at the mosque. There would be a collection for the imam generally, and a collection for the mosque. And we would get dollars, like $2 to put into each collection. So you get $2 each. As children growing up, that we would have been maybe 5, 6, that kind of thing. And what I remember though is that on the morning of Eid, there's like a whole lot of hustle and bustle. It's just a really nice kind of vibe. And there was a mosque across the road from us, and there's one that's further away that was close to our primary school. And my grandmother and they belonged to the one that was closer to the primary school. So when it was Eid time, we would go to that mosque. And I remember my uncle who lived in Marabella, he was actually treasurer there. So he would come from Marabella, stop in by us, and he'd actually give us money. So we would probably get like $1 or $2. I'm guessing $1 or $2 when you are 5 and 6, that's like a lot of money. Your father's gonna give you money, the older uncles will give you, the older cousins, once they were working, they would give us money as well. So, and you would get money according to your age. So if you were young, you get $1, and then maybe a little older, you'll get $2, and teenage, you get maybe $5. And that was a big deal back then.
Outside of the masjid though is where things will differ for most Muslims, even in Trinidad and Tobago, and obviously around the world, because we would all have different way of observing things. For me, however, my Eid traditions have changed over the years, and they have really evolved as I have grown, and as my you value different things as you become older or as you change, and people say after one time is the next. So I think one of my earliest memories of Eid celebrations is actually at the Princestown Masjid. My mother took me. It was the first time I ever spent Eid outside of my home masjid in Gasparilla, and I remember this Eid celebration in Princestown Masjid at the Princestown Astra, because I went to spend holidays by my aunt, Auntie Irene, down in Princestown, and went to mosque there in Princestown for the very first time. And I was so excited when I was given coins to be able to go and put your coins by the poor people who would gather outside of the masjid, because they come to collect charity or alms, and etc. So I remember how excited I was. My mother gave me, I can't remember how many coins, but I'm looking at all these coins in my hands, and there was excitement to be able to go do this. I had never done it before, not even at my home masjid. I think I was too young at the time, or for whatever reason, can't remember. But that was my first time, and there was excitement to just be able to go and put a 25-cent piece, because back then a 25-cent piece was what most people could have afforded because of just the sheer number of people that would gather outside of the masjids. And it was only the very wealthy people at the time who would have been able to give the beggars $1 each. And if you got a $5, man, that was like, you were like the luckiest person around, So it was different times back then. And then so that was my earliest memory.
My parents decided that they are going to invite almost the entire village over on Eid day. So after mosque we come home, and mommy, she didn't go to mosque because she spent like the entire morning cooking. I think she cooked the majority of the day. And back then they weren't using sanitary plates or sanitary cups or anything like that. So you were like literally washing glasses and wear plates. And she pulled out all her fancy dishes because it's Eid, right? And my father would we had a red van when we were growing up. And my father would go into the streets and pick up the villagers and bring them over to celebrate Eid with us and have lunch, or late lunch, early lunch, depending on the time, right? Because there was so many people that would come through. And I remember that particular year, we were actually allowed to invite our friends from school over. So we did that. And it was a fun year.
Coming back to Bedu Street and being involved in the youth group at a very early age. Uncle John was in charge of the youth group at that time, and he was recently remarried and started the tradition of inviting us over after the masjid to come over to his house. His wife would make beef pies and samosas, etc. And it was some of the tastiest pastries I had ever had in my life up until that time. So that always brings me, a nice, it's a nice memory to have, So I'm very, very grateful for those memories. Uncle John is no more. So that's one of the fonder memories that I have on Eid day. And then that sort of catapulted us and the boys and girls in the masjid who grew up together and now still line together and do almost everything together into our own tradition. So that sort of spiraled into our food hopping tradition. So it started off by Uncle John, and then we might cross road and go across by Auntie Dora for Sawain, and eventually we'll go across by Sadia and Uncle Mozak, and eventually we'll come back by Faraz and they, either for early lunch or late dinner, depending on if we're going by Wafi that year or not, for his barbecue lamb and all the other wonderful things that he and Naida and Uncle Wahid and Auntie Feroza would have. And it was a house hopping thing. We would all visit each other's houses, and there's always something to be had. By the end of the day, man, we were stuffed. You'd go to some houses, and from the time you enter the house, you're like, no, I ain't eating, because that's just how stuffed you were. And that was fun for that time, whilst that lasted,
Things would have changed as you become teenagers. So I like to sew, and so too does my mom. And I remember one year we bought fabric, like the same week that was leading up to Eid. The day before Eid, maybe like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we are cutting this fabric. And we were 4 girls and mommy. I don't think mommy made herself an outfit that year, but the 4 of us were getting stuff done. So we're cutting. I think I didn't even go to sleep that night. I sewed all through the night to be able to finish. My father gets up in the morning, I haven't gone to bed as yet, and then he's like, are you going to finish this thing, in time? Mind you, we were all done and dressed, and we went to mosque that year. But it was a fun, exciting experience.
Things have continued to change. Now it's not about how many houses you visit, but now you sort of you sort of we all do our own things where we might go to one house one year and another house another year, but it's no longer about the food and that excitement. Now it's about entertaining. We're inviting people over, especially those people who are our friends and family members who aren't Muslim. And I remembered when we would have the opportunity, when we started entertaining at home, how excited I was the first time we entertained at home. And I think we had recently done some home renovations, etc. So at that point in time, we were comfortable having people over. And yeah, man, it was really wonderful. I have a lot of wonderful memories associated with that, and all the people that came over, and just being able to entertain and be hospitable to all these folks, all these people, and just show them, this side that they, not being Muslim, would probably not have experienced before, unless of course they would have gone over by another Muslim person's home. So it's really filled with joy and wonderful things, and I think most of all the ability to share in the celebration, because it is, after all, a day of celebration.
As we got older again, things kind of changed where we stopped inviting people over every year and we started doing like family hopping. So I have one cousin in particular, his name is Shiraz, and Shiraz has an open invitation to the entire family every year. Well, COVID changed things, but up until 2019, every year there's a standing invitation for the entire family to come over to him. And he does that for his masjid and also his wife's family as well. So you can imagine how many people pass through. But it's fun, especially when you meet up with your family, right? And you know what it's like when all the cousins get together. Especially if you don't see each other for a long time, it's even better. And then some years we would plan and go to specific aunties or uncles' houses, so everybody will meet up there, and it's just an awesome feeling. You get all dressed up, and it's just wonderful.
My last two things would be, one, I cannot not talk about the fact that a lot of my Eid memories also revolve around working at the radio station. I've always had the chance in many years gone by to come in maybe at some point in time later in the day or in the afternoon to come and present special Eid programs, whether for an hour, 3 or 4, and that has always been another hallmark sort of memory for me as well, because it's like I get to entertain all the Muslims and all those who aren't Muslim as well, listening into the radio on Eid day and just entertain the entire population. So it's a really wonderful thing.
If it was one time that you took pictures, it was Eid day. Mommy was she loved taking pictures of us as we were growing up, but Eid day everybody gets lined up and you take your picture then. And I don't know if you remember, back then there were these Kodak cameras that were about this long, and you would put in, I think it was like a 35mm film that will go into it. You had to put it in the dark, and whatever you took, that's the picture that you got. So if it was a bad picture, it was a bad picture. If there was too much sun, or your face looked distorted, and your eyes looked funny, that's what it was. Because there was nothing like delete and start over like we have now. But those memories remain, and maybe I'll share some of those pictures with you. I'll see if I can pull up some of them so that you can see what we look like as children. Because back then things were very, very different. And fast forward to getting married now, we actually, I think that year, we went to the masjid for Ramadan, during Ramadan, and to break fast a lot to Piparo, and so we decided that this year we would spend Eid in the masjid in Gasparilla, and it was really nice. It was different. I remember everybody being very warm, very welcoming, and there was no discomfort at all. But I think I don't feel uncomfortable going to masjids because we go to so many different ones, and we've been doing it as children, so I go in there and know my purpose, and that's about it. But and then we came home and we actually entertained. We had people come over, and it was really nice. It was different. I don't think I went over my parents that year. I think the next year we changed it up a little bit, and we went over to the mosque in Piparo, and that's where we went for Itala, and then we would have spent time with them there before we came back into Gasparilla. And so things have been a little bit different. But all in all, alhamdulillah, I think I've really appreciated each year for what it was and what it is. And this year it's going to be different. We're going to be home. This year's mommy said she wants to make red beans and rice and sea chicken. So that's what's going to be on our menu for Eid day, inshallah.
in closing, I will say that now one of the best Eid memories I have is actually from last year, 2020. We were in the midst of the lockdown, and that lockdown really, we were supposed to be at home, and we did remain at home. I don't want to speak about exactly what we did, but we spent last year Eid serving other people who were in dire straits. And that feeling last year, a small group of us being able to reach out to some other people and letting them feel like that they was Eid, even though they may not have ever experienced Eid before, that was probably the best and most heartwarming experience that I've ever had to this day. And had we not gone back into lockdown, I think that we would have probably wanted to do something similar. Asma and I were even contemplating, splitting it up and entertaining on some days, etc. But most importantly, trying to share this experience with our friends and family members, especially those who are not Muslim, because it's such a wonderful thing. And what do you do with a wonderful thing but share it? So however you observe it, however you celebrate Eid, whatever memories you have attached to Eid, just remember the most important thing is to share this celebration of Eid al-Fitr with everyone, Muslim or not. So on behalf of myself, my family, and our Happily Entangled vlog, Eid Mubarak.
Please let us know what your Eid traditions were like and what your memories of Eid as a child was like. Be sure to share it with us in the comments below. We definitely look forward to finding out what things were like for you over the years and what you intend to do this year, inshallah, since we have the lockdown. How you and your family are going to celebrate at home, because that's what we're going to have to do. So, Eid Mubarak from all of us.
Hope you enjoyed our tales and stories of our Eid traditions of times of yonder and the times of present, yesteryear and today. And I hope that you will also share your traditions with us in the comments below. Please do so, and who knows, maybe in 2022 and beyond we could connect and maybe even share some Eid traditions together, inshallah, God willing. But until then, Eid Mubarak once again from myself, Asma, the Happily Entangled AF and Fuzz Events and Entertainment Limited team. And do continue to enjoy your Eid, even though it will be spent at home, and do join us as well for our special Eid Day broadcast from our home, inshallah, God willing. Till then, bye for now.